Namo Narayana and welcome back. We are reading today chapter 23, Maharaja Prthu's Going Back Home. At the last stage of his life, when Maharaja Prthu saw himself getting old, that great soul who was king of the world divided whatever opulence he had accumulated among all kinds of living entities, moving and non-moving. He arranged pensions for everyone according to religious principles, and after executing the orders of the Lord in complete coordination with him, he dedicated his sons unto the earth, which was considered to be his daughter. Then Maharaja Prthu left the presence of his citizens, who were almost lamenting and crying from feeling separation from the king, and went to the forest alone with his wife to perform austerities. After retiring from family life, Maharaja Prthu strictly followed the regulations of such life and underwent severe austerities in the forest. He engaged in those activities as seriously as he had formerly engaged in leading the government and conquering everyone. In the Tapovana, Maharaja Prthu sometimes ate the trunks and roots of trees, sometimes he ate fruit and dried leaves, and for some weeks he drank only water. Finally, he lived simply by breathing air. Following the principles of forest living and the footsteps of the great sages and munis, Maharaja Prthu accepted 5 kinds of heating processes during the summer season, exposed himself to torrents of rain in the rainy season, and in the winter stood in the water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep. He underwent all these severe austerities in order to control his words and his senses, to refrain from discharging his semen, and to control the life air within his body. All this he did for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other purpose. By thus practicing severe austerities, Maharaja Prthu gradually became steadfast in spiritual life and completely free of all desires for fruitive activities. He also practiced breathing exercises to control his mind and senses, and by such control he became completely free from all desires for fruitive activities. Thus, the best among human beings, Maharaja Prthu followed that path of spiritual advancement which was advised by Sanat Kumara. That is to say, he worshipped the Lord Krishna. Maharaja Prthu thus engaged completely in devotional service, executing the rules and regulations strictly according to principles 24 hours a day. Thus his love and devotion unto the Lord developed and became unflinching and fixed. By regularly discharging devotional service, he became transcendental in mind and could therefore constantly think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Because of this, he became completely detached and attained perfect knowledge, by which he could transcend all doubt. Thus he was freed from the clutches of false ego and material conceptions of life. When he became completely free from the conception of bodily life, he realized the Lord Krishna is sitting in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. Being thus able to get all instructions from him, he gave up all other practices of yoga and jhana. He was not even interested in the perfection of said systems, for he thoroughly realized that devotional service to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and that unless the yogis and jnanis become attracted to Krishna and narrations about his pastimes, their illusions concerning existence can never be dispelled. In the due course of time, when Maharaja Prthu was to give up his body, he fixed his mind firmly upon the lotus feet of Krishna, and thus completely situated on the Brahmabhuta platform, he gave up all the material body. When he practiced a particular yogic sitting posture, he blocked the door of his anus with his ankles, pressed his right and left calves, and gradually raised his life air upward, passing it on to the circle of his navel, up to his heart and his throat, and finally pushed it upward to the central positions between his 2 eyebrows. In this way, Maharaja Prthu gradually raised his air of life up to the hole in his skull, whereupon he lost all desire for material existence. Gradually he merged his air of life with the totality of air, his body with the totality of earth, and the fire within his body with the totality of fire. In this way, according to the different positions of the various parts of his body, Prthu Maharaja merged the wholes of his senses with the sky, his bodily liquids, such as blood and various secretions, with the totality of water, and he merged earth with water, then water with fire, fire with air with sky, and so on. He amalgamated the mind with the senses, and the senses with the sense objects, according to the respective positions, and he also amalgamated the material ego with the total material energy, Mahatattva. I'm going to pause here, because my mind keeps thinking of things, and I keep getting distracted. So first of all, I just want to say, if you wish to perform austerities, please do, if you feel this is what you need. But I would not recommend doing what the first few verses here recommend, and eating the roots and trunks of trees and dried leaves and drinking only water and then breathing air. You will die. You will honestly die. And then it's going to be very painful, and you won't be here on this earth to teach others of the way of the Lord. And no one will be recording your story as is here. Please don't do that. Absolutely do not do that. There are stories of Buddhist monks who slowly killed themselves and then, sealed themselves up in tombs to preserve their bodies. The belief was their bodies would be completely preserved and they would reach some nirvana or whatever, I believe. When we have dug up those bodies, they are not preserved. As for their souls reaching Buddha, I don't know. But please don't do that. That is a very small group of men, and they left, I think, a hole, because if they continued living, I think they could teach more than by dying. That's just me. But please don't do this. I am not advocating any of this by sharing these words. I also wanted to note here, Maharaja Prthu, as we have been told, is a very special person. Nearly godly, or almost godly, or is part of God. He is a unique being, and yet he still did austerities. So if you think that just by giving up, eating meat, or as they say, giving up smoking for Lent, that's it, and you'll achieve everything after that. Maybe you will, but consider that Maharaja Prthu did way more, was already blessed, and yet he still did more. So it's not easy, no matter who you are. And you can't just flip a switch and have it all. Essentially is what this is saying. Even the most blessed king still did the austerities. Now, why did he do these? He did them for Krishna. He did them for the satisfaction of Krishna. So there's also an implication here that he actually didn't need to do the austerities, but he did them anyways. That's a very profound thing. He also discovers, as we see in this, that yoga and other things don't get you to the end. Just bhakti yoga does. So all these bodily positions and things and whatever, they're not going to get you all the way. Just worshiping the Lord is. And as I was reading this, I was thinking about how yoga is an austerity. That is the point. We have read the Yoga Sutras on this channel. That is the point of these. They are to get you out of your body, to control your body, to control your senses, desires, etc. Honestly, I don't know anybody who does yoga. Maybe one or two people who do yoga who actually see it like that. So all these folks who go, well, I do yoga, I'm sorry, I really do not believe that you are on the level of Maharaja Prthu. Given every yoga class I've ever seen, they don't really have a god. They kind of have whatever you feel like. They are very materialistic. If you're doing materialistic yoga, and yoga is about getting away from materialism, yeah, you're kind of missing the point. So he talks about yoga here, but yoga is so corrupt now in the West, and it's slowly becoming corrupt in India, because it's the U-turn theory, where it comes to us and then goes back in a perverted form, and then people think that that perverted form has some authenticity. It's just so corrupt. So when I'm reading about yoga and stuff, I just can't help but get a little anxious. And I am very open and standing against the corruption of modern yoga. I don't think it's yoga. I think it should call itself something different. It is not yoga as created in Sanatana Dharma as a way of realizing God. I just believe it is just a wholly different thing, and should start to use its own world and its own names, and just separate itself from the tradition that it really just doesn't really honor, except for a few people here and there. I'm sorry. I just have such a have difficulty with it, which is for another video, anyways. But here he says you don't need, you just need love of the Lord. And how many people doing yoga have love of the Lord? I don't know. Anyways, I'm feeling like I'm getting into a rant here, and I don't want to do that. That's not what I wanted here. I really just wanted to warn you not to take this stuff seriously and try to copy it. I just don't want you to do that. I want everyone to stay alive and to change the world from being alive, not by killing yourself. Please don't do that. So I'm going to end on that very sad note. My apologies. And we will pick up in the next video with verse 18 and continue this chapter as we work our way through the last third of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare